Hey everyone, welcome back. It feels like every day we're generating more and more data. Photos, videos, work files, you name it. It's amazing, but it also makes you think, where's it all going?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Hard drives fill up, servers get overloaded. Even the cloud, well, it's not really a fluffy cloud, is it?
Exactly. More like giant data centers using tons of energy. And the truth is, data storage is kind of a boring topic, right?
Yeah.
But not today. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction.
Oh, this is going to be good. Data storage, that's, well, a little more
We're
unexpected.
talking about storing data in plastic. I know, right? I saw this article on SciTechDaily.com called Could Data Be Stored in Plastic? Here's how it works, and I knew we had to talk about it.
It's really incredible research from Seoul National University. They're actually encoding information into synthetic polymers.
Hold on, synthetic polymers, like what the stuff our water bottles are made of?
That's right. It sounds crazy, but there's actually some really smart science behind it.
Okay, before we get too deep into the weeds, can you explain why scientists are even looking at polymers for data storage? What's the advantage?
Well, one of the biggest advantages is density. You can pack a ton of information into a really small space with polymers.
So it's like a super efficient way to store data.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine all the data on your computer fitting on a tiny little chip. Plus, polymers are really durable. They can handle a lot more wear and tear than traditional hard drives.
And those can be pretty fragile, right? Like one good drop and you could lose everything.
Exactly. But polymers are tough. Plus, they're way more energy efficient. Think about those giant data centers, all those servers running 24/7. It takes a lot of power to keep all that data accessible.
Yeah, not exactly eco-friendly, so polymers are sounding pretty good so far.
Cool.
But I'm guessing there's got to be a catch, right? There's always a catch.
Oh, you're definitely right about that. The catch with polymers has always been retrieval. Getting the information back OUT has been the major hurdle.
Okay, so it's like you can write the data, but then can't read it back.
Pretty much. The old methods relied on a technique called mass spectrometry, but that only worked on really short polymer chains. It's like trying to write a whole book on a tiny little post-it note.
Not a lot of room for detail there.
Nope. So storage capacity was severely limited. And even if you could store a decent amount of data, finding something specific was a nightmare. You literally had to decode the whole chain from start to finish to find anything.
So like reading a whole dictionary just to find one word.
Yeah, it was a very inefficient process. But that's where this new research comes in. They figured out a way to work with much longer polymer chains. So right away, you've got way more storage capacity.
Okay, that's a big step forward.
Yeah.
But is finding specific data still a problem with these longer chains?
Actually, no. That's the really cool part. This team has developed a technique that allows them to directly access specific bits of data. You don't have to read the whole chain anymore.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me they can just pinpoint the exact data they need within this long chain? How is that even possible?
It's kind of like chapters in a book. They've figured out how to put these special markers into the polymer chain, so it's broken up into sections. Then they can target specific sections to get the data they need.
So it's not just one long, continuous string of data anymore. It's organized like a book.
Right.
So how does this whole thing work? How do they actually get the information into the polymer to begin with?
Well, they use this, well, it all starts with binary code. Remember, that's how computers talk, ones and zeros.
And the language of computers.
So they basically translate that binary code into these chemical building blocks called monomers.
Monomers. What are those exactly?
Think of them like, like Lego bricks. You snap them together in different combinations to create different structures.
Okay, I can picture that.
So they use two different types of monomers. One represents a 1 in the binary code, and the other represents a 0.
And these monomers, they're what make up the polymer chain.
Exactly. They string them together in a specific sequence, like a code, to represent the data.
Okay, that's pretty ingenious. But what about those section markers we were talking about? What are they made of?
Those are made of a different type of monomer. They insert them at specific intervals along the chain, like dividers between the chapters of a book.
I'm starting to get the picture here. So we've got this long polymer chain broken up into sections by these markers. Each section contains data in the form of these monomer sequences. But how do they actually read those sections and retrieve the data.
That's where the really clever software comes in. They have these programs that analyze the different sections of the chain, figure out the sequence of those Lego brick monomers, and then reassemble them in the correct order.
So it's like solving a puzzle, but instead of a picture, you get your data back.
Exactly.
Pretty impressive. And it sounds like it actually works. They've done some tests, right?
Oh, yeah. They've done some really cool experiments. In one, they encoded their university's address into a polymer chain.
Their whole address. How much data is that?
Well, they converted the address into a 512-bit binary code. Then they built the polymer chain with the corresponding monomer sequence.
512 bits, and they were able to get the whole address back out.
They did, which just shows the potential of this technology. But what's even cooler is they actually targeted and retrieved just the word chemistry from that address without having to decode the whole thing.
Wait a minute, how do they do that?
It's all about knowing the structure of the data. Since chemistry was part of the department name, they knew exactly where it was located in the chain, so they were able to target just those specific sections.
Okay, now that's just showing off. I mean, it's incredible. We've gone from cramming data onto a sticky note to storing a whole address in plastic, and now we can pinpoint individual words. It's like we're watching the evolution of data storage in fast forward.
And that's just the beginning. It really feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
I know, right? It's exciting, but also kind of overwhelming. So much potential, but also a lot of unknowns, right?
Definitely. We've talked about all the amazing things this technology could do, but there are some real challenges ahead, too.
Yeah, like what are the biggest hurdles researchers need to overcome before this becomes, a real thing?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is scalability. I mean, this research was a proof of concept. They showed that it works, but with a relatively small amount of data.
Okay, so it's like, we know it can bake a cupcake, but can it bake a wedding cake?
Exactly. Scaling this up to handle the massive amounts of data we generate every day, that's a whole different challenge.
So what needs to happen to get from cupcake to wedding cake, so to speak?
Well, for one thing, we need advances in the chemistry. Synthesizing these complex polymers on a large scale, that's not easy. And the software, too. It needs to be able to encode and decode huge amounts of data really efficiently.
And what about speed? I mean, even with this direct access method, I bet it's still slower to get data from a polymer than from a hard drive, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. You're basically doing chemistry every time you want to read a file. So speed is definitely something researchers are working on. But for things like archival storage, where speed isn't as crucial, polymers could be a great option.
Yeah, like for storing historical records or important documents that need to last a long time.
Exactly. Stuff that doesn't need to be accessed constantly, but that you want to keep safe and secure for years to come.
Okay, so we've got scalability and speed. What about cost? I'm guessing this stuff isn't cheap.
Yeah, you're right about that. Developing this technology, producing the polymers, making the equipment, it's all pretty expensive right now.
But hey, that's true for any new tech. Remember when flat screen TVs first came out? They were like $1 gazillion. Now they're everywhere.
Exactly. As the technology matures and production ramps up, the prices will come down.
Okay, so we've got scalability, speed, and cost.
Yeah.
Anything else? What about the environmental impact?
That's a really important consideration. We don't want to create a solution that ends up causing more problems down the line. Polymers themselves are pretty durable, but the production process can have an environmental impact.
Right, got to think about the whole life cycle, from creating the polymers to eventually, disposing of them.
Exactly. So researchers are looking into ways to make the process more sustainable, using eco-friendly materials and minimizing waste.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done before this technology becomes, commonplace. But the progress so far is really impressive.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fascinating field, and the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing.
You know what would be cool? What if we used polymers to create, super durable backups of really important data, like a fail-safe in case something happens to our digital archives?
Kind of like a digital doomsday vault.
Yes, a digital doomsday vault. Protecting all those irreplaceable documents and records. I mean, polymers are durable. They can withstand harsh conditions. It's a perfect fit.
I love that idea. It's like taking out an insurance policy on our digital heritage.
Okay, I'm officially calling myself a digital doomsday vault visionary. But seriously, this whole conversation has been amazing. It's incredible to see how science is taking something as ordinary as plastic and turning it into something so groundbreaking.
It really shows the power of human ingenuity and how we're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It makes you wonder, if we can store data in plastic, what other unconventional materials are out there? I mean, could we be storing data in wood or glass or even like fabric one day.
You know, you're not that far off. Researchers are actually already looking into some pretty wild materials for data storage.
Oh, really? What? Come on, spill the beans. What other crazy ideas are they working on?
Well, get this. They're looking into storing data in DNA.
Wait, hold on. DNA data storage. Is that even possible?
It's not only possible, it's a really hot area of research right now.
Yeah.
DNA has some amazing qualities that make it perfect for data storage.
Okay, like what? I mean, besides the fact that it's the blueprint for life, which is pretty awesome already.
Well, first of all, it's incredibly dense. You can store massive amounts of information in a tiny amount of DNA. Like a single gram of DNA could theoretically hold all the data in the world.
Whoa, that's insane.
Huh.
But how do you actually get the data into the DNA? And how do you get it back out again?
It's pretty clever, actually. You basically translate digital data, your ones and yours, into those 4 chemical bases of DNA: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine.
Right, the AGCT. I remember that from biology class.
Exactly. So each sequence of those bases represents a specific piece of data.
So it's like you're writing code, but using those DNA bases instead of ones and zeros.
Yeah, you got it. And to get the data back out, you use DNA sequencing. It's a technology that's already used a lot in biology and medicine.
Right, so we actually have the tools to do this already.
We do, and it's getting cheaper and faster all the time. So you sequence the DNA, read the order of those bases, and then convert that back into digital data.
So are you telling me we could have DNA hard drives one day? That's wild. I wonder if they'd be biodegradable. Talk about eco-friendly data storage.
That's an interesting thought. But, you know, DNA isn't the only unusual material scientists are exploring.
Oh, what else? Don't leave me hanging.
Well, how about glass?
Glass, really? Like the stuff windows are made of?
Yep. Glass is super durable and stable, which makes it really good for long-term archival storage. You could etch data onto a glass disc, and it could last for centuries.
Wow, like a digital time capsule. That's amazing. But how do you actually store data in glass?
There are different techniques, but one that's showing a lot of promise uses lasers to etch tiny patterns onto the glass surface.
So it's like microscopic engravings.
Yeah, kind of. These tiny patterns represent the data, and then you can read them using a special microscope.
It's mind-blowing to think that data could be all around us, stored in things we see every day.
Sure.
Windows, our mirrors, even our drinking glasses.
It really blurs the lines between the physical and the digital world, doesn't it? It makes you wonder, what's next?
I know, right? What other crazy ideas are they going to come up with? This whole deep dive has been an incredible journey. We started with plastic milk jugs, and now we're talking about DNA and laser-etched glass. Who knew data storage could be so fascinating?
It's amazing what happens when you combine creativity with science.
Exactly. So for our listeners who are just as intrigued by this stuff as we are, what advice would you give them? How can they learn more?
Well, the most important thing is to just stay curious. There are tons of resources out there: scientific articles, researchers' blogs, and social media, conferences, online discussions.
Don't be afraid to, go down those internet rabbit holes.
Exactly. And don't be shy about asking questions. That's how we learn and grow.
And remember, sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from those who aren't afraid to think outside the box. So, keep those creative juices flowing.
Absolutely. The future of data storage is wide open. And who knows, maybe one of our listeners will make the next big discovery.
That's a great note to end on. Well, folks, that's it for our deep dive into the wild world of unconventional data storage. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
And to our listeners, we hope you learned something new today. And who knows, maybe one day soon, all our data will be stored in ways we can't even imagine right now.
Until next time, keep on exploring.